let's say cryptocurrencies. I mean, it's nothing else that people are trying to find another solution. They start to think about, what is money, what is the monetary system. They want to escape, from the national, dominated and controlled currencies. So I think that's definitely something. And then on the other side, you see the initiatives in the East, with especially, the Shanghai Gold Exchange, or the crude oil-backed renminbi contracts, which is going directly against the trading status of the US dollar, which still is dominating most of the trade on a global scale. And and they have their ideas about this gold exchanged trading hub among BRIC nations. And so, I mean, it's not yet confirmed if they do it, if they already started. But I mean, these are their plans. And at the same time, they use already gold in their language to increase, of course, the trust into their trading currencies. So that's why they came up with saying, okay, you can have, you can trade in renminbi, or you will be able to exchange it against physical gold in the future. So this just shows that it's adds trust, and they really try to get more market share, and that's definitely is not in favor of the US dollar as a world currency or a world trading currency.
Now, do you think the central banking community, the IMF, the BIS, the Fed, I mean, they all been out there telling us, terrorists use the cryptocurrencies, criminals use it, it's not really a currency. Are they really afraid of this cryptocurrency? I mean, there's another train of thought. People also think that this crypto market, this blockchain system, was created by the NSA, the central banking community. I mean, so you have one camp that thinks that, it's a central bank type of distraction. Then there's another camp that believes that this is a decentralized system that is going up against the central banking system. And this is why the central banks are out there demonizing cryptocurrency, just like they demonize the precious metals market. They do the same exact thing. What's your take on it? Do you think this is a central banking trick?
No, I don't think so. Not at all. It's really, I mean, the crypto system is basically disruptive. And whenever something was disruptive in the past, you were going against, mature players or, important market players and so on. So in the past, they always said, when not something like this occurred, and I truly believe that the invention of the crypto system is basically, the best idea for the last 2,000 years. I think it's, I will tell you later on why I do believe that. So I think central institutions are definitely afraid because crypto and also the way it works, it's really fully decentralized. I mean, in a way, I see crypto as the materialization of Friedrich August Hayek's idea, what he described back in already 1976 as the denationalization of money. And if we see, the value and philosophy of this crypto world and the amount of decentralization it offers, we can use it to create, the biggest decentralized global market where every person with a smartphone can participate in it and become a market player if he wants to do so. We really take the internet to the next level, meaning, decentralized communication, decentralized law, decentralized production, and decentralized financial systems. So we will own our information and property ourselves directly. And all the abuse by centralized institutions is going to evaporate. So meaning, Facebook, Google, the central banks, and even central authorities are going to lose power and will disappear. And it's moving quick because, the whole infrastructure necessary for a crypto system is already there. I mean, that's the internet. And so crypto will also allow to digitalize real hard assets without the possibility of double spending. And individuals can exchange it, they can trade with it, pay with it in this global market without using a currency enforced on us by a national state or a supranational institution. So in this non-system, every person can decide for himself what he wants to use as money. And crypto is basically, for me, to transfer property titles under decentralized law and in what he wants to store his wealth, such as gold, silver, which is money, and or other commodities or stocks of companies that create real value in the real world. I mean, this is, just imagine the world becomes a global marketplace of goods and services. I mean, this will revolutionize the allocation of goods and services in the marketplace, because the individual is your direct contact and not an intermediary with rules and regulations that, for example, limit, it's only there to limit competition and to increase artificial costs with the aim to protect, existing multinational and through lobbying created businesses. So, that's the way I see, that's the idea behind the crypto system, the way I see it. I really had time over the last 5-6 months since I basically, became independent to spend more time with people in the Crypto Valley, which is located here in Zug, where I live. And so really to think about, what's going on, what are the opportunities which are created by that, and therefore I truly embrace, the crypto system. And because the aim is always decentralization. I mean, that's how that system functions and works. So if somebody tries to centralize it, they're not going to succeed, because that's going completely against the initial, the whole setup of that system.
Are the central banks, are they trying to control the crypto market like they did with the precious metals market, where they created a paper market with precious metals, and they started, they created a futures market for cryptocurrency? Are they trying to do the same exact thing where they have full control over the crypto market?
I mean, no one knows. I mean, I just know, I think, 1,000 wallets own 40% of the Bitcoin amount of cryptos which are around. I also don't believe, that, for example, Bitcoin, that's the future money. I think that's just the beginning and not the end. So we don't know yet, which cryptos will gain an intrinsic value in the future. I don't think that, this is also the first time that we really can think about, what is money? Why do we need money? How money came into existence? Because at the end of the day, what we all want to do since we had the division of labor, is we want to trade goods and services. So we exchange real goods or, real services against something. And so at the end of the day, it will drive the people back into hard assets, into real assets, and all these euro and Swiss franc and US dollar digital units or paper notes, which have an intrinsic value of nothing, are going to disappear. So I truly.
So what happens to the central banking system? If people start to use, whatever coin that's out there, maybe it's not Bitcoin, maybe it's something else, but if everyone starts to move away from the paper currency, like the dollar, the euro, the franc, what happens to the central banking system?
It's going to be obsolete. You don't need it anymore. It's and that's not only for the central banking system. That's also for the banking system as we know it. And that's why these guys are so nervous and try to demonize the whole system, or what we can see now also in Zug, that you have a lot of bankers. They are trying to catch that train because they believe it's El Dorado and so on. The whole crypto is really, at the end of the day, it's nothing more than to empower the individual. And I think this is that's really what we were looking for. So all these centralized institutions which are used today in the current system are going to disappear, and it's just a matter of time. And but I think it can happen in the next few years, because look at the internet 20 years ago and now. And this time, I think it's going to be even faster, because, as I said, you don't have to build up a new infrastructure. That's already there. You just add, new services, and the cryptos, you can have thousands of them. And we will see in the future, which of them will create what we understand or what people understand under an intrinsic value. It can gain in value because of utility services, the reputation, the functionality, and of course also costs. And in the crypto world, competition is the driver. Therefore, all these cryptos might have a deflationary trend because of creating more value for less costs. And by doing so, they are really serving free markets and free individuals, because the power to manipulate currency or impose restrictions through a centralized entity will be impossible. So people will ultimately profit from productivity growth and innovation, and will increase purchasing power. So they will also have the freedom to decide for themselves in which hard asset they want to store parts of their wealth. I mean, that's the way I see the whole crypto business moving forward. And the world as we know it we see the disintegration. We see Trump, fake news, Brexit, Catalonia, and now now the central institutions are losing the control over the money, and what is money, and what we have been forced to use as money. I think this is going within this transition period. People have a chance to exit the actual system, going into a new one, which from my point of view is offering it's truly unique, and I think it's the best thing which ever happened to mankind, really, to function as a global marketplace. And every individual becomes an entrepreneur if he wants to.
So while cryptocurrencies are gaining steam, we have China and Russia. They've been accumulating a huge amount of gold. Hungary wants their gold back. Why are these countries ramping up on their gold purchases? Why do they want their gold back? What do you see happening in the world today of why this is happening?
The whole gold repatriation thing already started a few years ago, even before we had Brexit or Trump, for example. So that just showed that central banks don't trust each other any longer. And it also shows that the potential threat, why did the nations decided to bring their gold to the United Kingdom or to the United States on the first hand? That was always because, we had communism and this, Russia, Soviet Union. So basically they were saying, we have to bring it, away from the mainland, Europe, and, we bring it maybe to an island such as Britain and America, which are harder to attack, or, far away, offering more security. And I think this has changed as well. So I think even those central banks, they realize, the system is heavily fragile, and it's heavily overspended, it's over leveraged, you cannot sustain a credit-based system for a long time. You can inject, and fill it up with credit up to a certain level, but everything comes to an end. And I think they realize that, even in the future, if you really want to have some money in your nation or whatever, then it's gold, and you have to bring it back. And now we see, Eastern Europe. That also shows, the people don't. I think not even the central banks are more afraid from the Russians any longer than from the Brits or the Americans. That's another. When we see all these, Russia, what happened? The guy who has been killed in Britain, and now all this gibberish in the news, and basically blaming Russia. That's what we're seeing for years already. Russia's blamed for everything. And I think that's just noise. It's really what Nassim Taleb described when he was saying, news are toxic. They are only noise, but they don't contain signals. And so it's there, to confuse the people, with all these news on a daily basis, which are, absolutely, unnecessary. And you don't need to know that shit, because it's really, it's the matrix. And, so I think, that's why we also see the decline of the mass media and the fake news debate, because people really have a chance also with the internet to create their own mind, to form their own opinion independently from a third party. And at the same time, they realize that there is not only one solution for everything.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's Skripal who, where they're blaming everything on Russia, where they poisoned him. And of course, they have no proof of anything. The UK never provided any type of evidence or anything, but everyone's just going along with it, which is kind of ridiculous. And I agree with you. I think this is a complete and utter distraction from what's really going on around the world. And it looks like they're trying to maybe ramp up another Cold War type of scenario, ramp up maybe a war with Russia, just like World War I. how that started with an assassination. Maybe they were hoping that, if they can get all the countries together, maybe they can get something started saying Russia is going around killing individuals and things like that. But I don't think it's going to work. I don't think people are actually really buying this. And we haven't seen any proof or evidence of what really happened.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the oldest strategy they are using, which has been used, in the history of mankind. That's divide and conquer. You only have two sides, and so you need to be part of one. You cannot have a different opinion. Either you are pro or you're against. And so, I mean, that's basically what they are promoting on a global scale. And by dividing the people, you can also, you can take away their responsibilities. You can take away further liberties. You can even say, if you have less trade, which you can more nationalize services and so on. That could also be, we don't even need war, but, government, whenever they spread fear, they always take away more liberties and they nationalize these markets, more government intervention and so on. I mean, that's always the outcome. You don't even need to have a war to achieve that. And I think that's what these guys are trying to do because, they're running out of steam. I mean, now they really have to steal from everywhere, especially from the savers, like they did in the past now for more than 10 years. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And so, I think we are really at the end of a long-term debt cycle and, in combination with, disruptive technology and so on. I think, I'm really positive for the mid and long run, that this is, that also, that we are heading in the right direction. Now just people have to realize it as well and, lose a bit, their trust and their faith into our current, institutions, which are not serving the people, which are only serving their own interests. And, I think, man is intelligent enough to understand that once he, has reduced, the daily propaganda and the distraction, or at least he has seen behind it.
Now, while all this is happening, China, they introduced the petro-yuan futures and they launched this, and a lot of countries, a lot of investors were basically investing in this. And as this moves forward, a lot of people are saying, well, as the petro-yuan gets larger and larger, it's going to be a threat to the petrodollar, but it's going to take a very, very long time for China's petro-yuan to even catch up to the petrodollar. Do you think it's going to take the amount of time that these financial pundits are saying that, it's going to take years and years and years before the petro-yuan can even compete against the petrodollar? Do you think that's true?
At the end of the day, it's a question of who is going to, how market participants are going to decide what they want to use, more dollars or petro-yuans in the future. And I think this stuff can happen. As I said, changes can happen very fast. So I don't see that we have, decade in front of us that the US petrodollar is still running the show. But I think, we see more and more competition coming up from all different kinds of angles, which at the end are weakening the demand for the US dollar. And because the whole system is based on the US dollar, it's, all the world, the monetary reserves with the central banks, I think still more than, approximately 65% of all the global reserves of each nation are kept in US dollar. So, and when the dollar goes into deflation area, the demand is going, it can have an impact very, very quickly. So, I would never, I would definitely, I think right now it's really better not to invest and to hope that the market is going in, that I can make a gain in a short period of time when everything goes right. I think right now you really have to think about, okay, I need to, I want to preserve my wealth and I want to invest in a way so that when everything goes wrong, that I will also have an insurance and that it will play out. And, so people, have to change a little bit, their perspective of, on a wider scale, what's going on, behind, on fundamental, in a fundamental way, basically. These fundamental changes we can see, are just, extremely, it's amazing. I mean, it's, the change is really, the last 2 years for me was an overwhelming period.
Do you think with China and Russia accumulating all this gold, do you think they've been doing it to, build confidence in their system, in the yuan, in their currencies? Because when the dollar starts to lose value, starts to lose its grip, this would be an alternative for the dollar, and people, would look at it and say, okay, they have gold, it builds confidence, they have manufacturing, they have the One Belt, One Road. Do you think this is the plan?
Yeah, I mean, I would also, definitely it builds up confidence. But that to build up confidence, that really takes time. But I just see, I mean, they also realize, why should they accept, a money which is backed up by nothing, that hot air? Instead, they can, I mean, China is the backbone of the economy. I mean, China reminds me quite often of the United States after the Second World War. Just the Americans had all the gold reserves, 70% of all the gold reserves of the free world were in the United States. They had, the economical industrial backbone because Europe, Asia, and so on. I mean, Japan was destroyed. And so now what we can see is, China, they have all the industry, people which are producing. But at the same time, their financial system is so heavily leveraged, and the whole system is so fragile at the moment. We never know, I mean, a drop at the stock market can happen at any time. We also realize that volatility is back. We see, interest rates going up. At the same time, we had a boom for the last 10 years because we injected from 140 trillion, up to 230 trillion, we injected credit. So as soon as you, taper and increase interest rates and make it harder, that the money supply and liquidity is growing the same way, it has an impact, and that's deflationary. And so you might see all different kind of shocks, but I wouldn't say, that the renminbi right now is a better currency than the US dollar, because their balance sheet is so highly leveraged. And, but at the same time, of course, they have gold, which the East understands that, gold is money. And I also believe in the future, even in the crypto system, gold will have a strong people who still, who are going to store their wealth in physical gold, and that it will remain a form of money in competing with all different kind, of course, of currencies, because at the end of the day, a value is absolutely subject to the individual. And
do you think precious metals will play a role in the cryptocurrency? Is that what you just said?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really, we need money. Money needs to be a real good. That's how money came into existence. So, I mean, cryptos might receive, as I said, they can gain a certain intrinsic value, but they will all those, how do you say, you can programmable money. I mean, those forms might, first of all, everyone can start a cryptocurrency, basically. So you're going to have thousands of different currencies always in the future competing with each other. So they will have a certain store of value, but I don't believe that, a Bitcoin can have, purchasing power for a long time of 10, 20,000 or 100,000. I think that's too early. I don't believe that it can become a store of value, as good as, for example, physical gold or a hard asset, which is scarce. And, so in the future, when I talk about currencies, it's not only the cryptos, but, gold will be a currency. Cobalt might be one. Any commodity basically can become, some people will, when they are related to the steel industry, they might store certain parts of their cash or wealth in physical steel. So at the end of the day, as I said, we need money because we want to trade real goods. And to trade that, we used, a receipt for a certain amount. It's an information, what we do is basically in the future, we will close deals on the internet, and we will trade property titles on hard assets and so on. So therefore, gold for me is, in combination with crypto, is going to be, a killer. It's great. I mean, a killer in a positive sense.
Yeah. How do we get back? I mean, a lot of people hearing like, and we're discussing cryptocurrency, we're discussing gold, we're discussing, the petro yuan. To get back to sound money, I mean, what do the people have to do? I mean, can they just keep buying Bitcoin? I mean, that's not going to me, that's not going to bring us back to sound money. What do we actually have to do as a population? What do we need to do to get back to sound money?
For me, I think it's the principles of liberty and freedom, or to realize that we are born as a free individual, that we own our own body and that we own our own mind, and that no one can take away the fruits of labor from us, which is already part of, we have a right to our life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, and if people would understand that, non-aggression principles, it's not good to solve a problem in the future by, killing the other or stealing from him or betraying him or using, in a democracy, a majority of people voting, in favor to steal from the other 49%, which might lose. So it has a lot of things to do with, basic values. People have to think about their basic values again, and I think it should be absolutely obvious if they ever start, if they think to start independently, that, they understand that we are much better off if you don't steal, if you don't betray, if you don't kill. And, so it has, I think, the change is really with all that decentralization, which means this competition of ideas and different opinions, is very much in favor. And now with the internet, where basically you have access to the knowledge of the world, and you can also to a lot of bullshit, of course, but you have a lot of good sources. I mean, everything is on your fingerprints, and you can do your own research, and you can form your own opinion. And then hopefully, without political correctness, we have to abandon that stuff so that we truly can talk about different perspectives, different views, and to take the other guys serious, and on a basis that we can debate and agree that we don't agree, I think, and realize that it's not only black and white, that there are a lot of, for different people, you have different solutions, you have different cultures. So therefore we need different opinions, and that we start to decentralize also on a political level. Like, Switzerland with its system of federalism, where you have communities which still have a big power, so that everything, the principles of subsidiarity, to organize a society from the bottom up approach, like Switzerland did in the history. I think, people will then, if they realize that in the United States, for example, if California wants to form a communistic state, let them do that. Let them do that, and let them show, maybe it's going to work. Most likely it's not going to work. But as long as they are independent, and the majority of the Californians want to have, Karl Marx back, let them do it. And if somebody else wants to have, another system in a specific region, then give them the freedom to do that as well, as long as they don't hurt and steal and betray other people. And that would be the basis for more competition of ideas. And I tell you, the best ideas will always spread. But that's why it's so important that we stop, to fight each other, and really start to enter a debate again, which is the basis for enlightenment.
Claudio, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. Once again, how can people see your work?
Well, they can come to www.claudiograss.ch. So I basically write about, in English and in German, about, gold, the crypto system, geopolitics, history, principles of liberty, the Austrian School of Economics, which from my point of view is extremely valuable for people who are really interested to understand how an economy is working. And and they can have, whenever they have a question about, protecting their wealth or buying and storing physical gold in safe jurisdictions where the power of the politicians is limited, they can also shoot me a mail, and I'm happy to support them with my advice and refer it to the right solution, whatever they're looking for.
Claudio, thank you very much for being on the spotlight. And I'm going to put all the links at the bottom of this video so people can get right to your site and they can see your work and all the information you just spoke about. Once again, thank you very much for being on the spotlight. I appreciate it.
Dave, pleasure. Thank you very much.